I'm Eric Loy, and welcome to Eric Loy Interviews. On this podcast, we talk with folks from the VTuber community on their channels, their talents, their stories, where they come from, and their plans for the future. I would like to welcome Z to the program. Hi.
Hello.
Z is short for a word that I can barely pronounce, so I will let you introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah. Speedy at sea, it's me, Z. My full name is Syzygy Altair. So these are actually two space words combined together. Syzygy actually refers to when three astronomical objects are aligned up together, and Altair is one of the brightest stars in the night sky. It's a star in the summer triangle in the constellation Aquila. So two really cool space terms, but you can just call me Z for short. It's a lot easier.
Yeah, well, it is a lot easier, but as I told you before we got started, boy, I wish I could use it in Scrabble.
Yeah, no, or is a great hangman word. It's really creative. No vowels.
No vowels whatsoever. So many points. But I appreciate you coming on because I know you're busy. You got a lot of stuff going on. Explain to me what type of a VTuber you are. I know we'll talk about a group that you're with that I've already interviewed a couple folks from, but you've got a different take on things here.
Yep, so I sort of identify as an edu VTuber. What that means is that I'm focusing on physics, astrophysics, engineering, computer science content. I'm basically a VTuber that sort of dabbles in education, makes learning fun. I've done a lot of different content, but primarily across physics and space, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, it is cool. It is cool. I tell you, I'm gonna show this to my 8-year-old grandson, who is absolutely enamored with things such as black holes. He could talk your ear off about event horizons and such.
Yeah, no, black holes are epic. I actually made a series on this for my special relativity videos. So I don't know if it's 8-year-old friendly, but
well, it might be for him. He's a pretty sharp cookie.
Smart kid, yeah.
Yeah, but I have one question on black holes before we start. I had this since I was knee high to a grasshopper about black holes. Do they mess up time?
So they can in a really, really weird way. So in one of my videos, one of the questions that I got was, can space and time sort of swap with each other inside of a black hole? And the answer is yes and no. The really interesting part about black holes is, well, a lot of this is currently theorized. I mean, there's really no way to sort of like go into a black hole and check.
Yeah.
But currently, scientists believe that there is a way to actually access other universes if we were able to travel faster at the speed of light or enter the black hole a specific way. And that can include multiverses, that can include antiverses, and so forth. So, yeah, using the black hole as sort of an access point to all these different universes. Now, of course, these are mostly theorized, and it's a lot of complex physics that has to do with rotating black holes, which are really interesting because they distort the space-time around the black hole in a way that's more extreme than a black hole that's not rotating at all.
Okay. And just more energy or more, just more of a, let's see, what would be the right word? More of a force that causes that sort of movement. I can't quite come up with a word for it. Is it because of the rotation that causes those extra things?
Well, yes. So currently in the theory, if we were to, enter a black hole and maybe even emerge out of some other end, that would be currently theorized in rotating black holes. And the reason for that is because as a black hole rotates, you can imagine like these are incredible forces.
Oh yeah.
Not even light can escape. And as the black hole rotates, there are more relativistic effects that account for the different directions you can go into.
Mm.
I have to admit, I'm not that much of an expert on black hole theory. That is not really my area of expertise. But it's really cool to think about if we could use black holes as like a teleportation device.
Oh yeah.
Although it would probably require us to go faster than the speed of light, which is not allowed with the laws of the universe.
Yeah. If we were going faster than the speed of light, we'd probably go over a lot of places we wanted to go anyway, pretty quick. But
Yeah, actually, if we were able to go faster than the speed of light, it would be possible for us to go back in time.
mm, yeah, and I don't,
Yeah.
there's always all that stuff. Like you'd think somebody would already have done that in the future, or we're just not that relevant for anybody want to come on back and look at us.
Yeah, I personally have the opinion that time travel doesn't exist. The
Mm,
reason for that is because then all these laws about causality, cause and effect,
mm.
sort of break down. I mean,
Oh yeah,
you've probably have heard of this like grandfather effect. If you go back in time and kill your own grandfather or your father before, or a parent, anything that would have led to your creation, it's a bit of a paradox because then you wouldn't have existed.
yeah, and then there's the well, then you just made another universe type thing. Oh, there's a lot of things you can get into with that, and
Yeah, no.
it drives folks to just keep theorizing and come up with more stuff.
Yeah, more and more crazy and crazy ideas.
Yeah. One thing I always wondered about with that bending and manipulating of time up there is that if that is possible, does that make time not a universal constant?
Oh, I see. Well, we consider time to be a dimension of its own.
Mm,
You probably have heard that time is the fourth dimension.
right.
Actually, the other day I was playing 5D chess, and
Oh,
in that game, time was a dimension that you can move in.
oh my.
So, yeah, time is universal. And if the issue with moving faster than the speed of light is that it breaks down these ideas of cause and effect,
Mm,
which are really central to time. One of the laws of thermodynamics states that entropy must continue to increase with time. It's basically universal to the universe.
yeah. Yeah, and as one things I always wondered about it's just of course not having any background in it whatsoever is like if time moves differently up there with by and near a black hole in a black hole, that should break down all the physics around it too, and physics would be different everywhere slightly because the time wouldn't be exactly the same as it would be for me standing here as it is standing for you.
Ah, yes. So it's not that the properties of time changes. It's actually that our perception of time changes. And those might sound like the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but so when you are, let's say that you are on a spaceship observing somebody, okay, maybe a better situation, a more simpler situation, is you are standing along the side of a railroad track and somebody you see is traveling very close to the speed of light on a train.
Mm-hmm.
So you are on the ground. And time just moves like it normally would.
Right.
But when you observe that person on the train, you would say, oh, wow, time is moving differently for them.
Mm.
In fact, it appears that time is moving more slowly for that person on the train. And so you would think that the properties of time have changed. They have actually not.
Mm.
Because if you were the person on the train, then you would say, oh, time is moving for me perfectly still on this train. But it seems like time is moving differently for somebody outside the train. So a very similar analogy to this might be like if you are sitting in a car and you just start moving and you're holding like coffee, that coffee's going to spill everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're moving at a constant speed, then that coffee just remains still. It appears to be almost exactly the same, as if you were just sitting motionless on the ground and not in a car.
Mm.
And so this is this whole idea of reference frames and being able to perceive how time changes when the properties of time are still the same across all viewers. And that's one of the really cool things about physics, making sure to reconcile these differences and ensuring that the laws of physics remain consistent, or else our universe would explode and it would be completely broken.
It's almost a strange way of bookkeeping in a way, because you have to, with the the laws of motion and that sort of thing, you have to account for, if something does this, there has to be a reason for it, and it has to tote up on this side of the board too. It's
Yep,
you
yep.
don't, the energy and things just don't appear uh, that we can explain anyway, and there has to be a reason for it. It has to tote up on this side. It's See now, folks, you may think that we just ran off on a tangent here a little bit, but first of all, it's my show. I can do what I want. Secondly, you just heard why talking with Z is entertaining, because that was so. I could hear you smiling as you're talking about it. you just you just really enjoy this so much that um, I I could just ask every question I could possibly ask from you and enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing that excites me, it's definitely physics.
Mm.
And there's just so many weird, cool things about it.
Mm-hmm. It
Yep.
there are just so many questions, and you can still come up with questions off your questions, and you just keep going and going and going from there. Was that something that early on, the early Z caught quickly, or was it something that you developed later on in life?
Oh yeah, no, definitely, definitely something that I learned over time.
Mm.
So I guess naturally when I first started getting curious about astrophysics and space, I felt like, everybody sort of has an interest in space at some point, right?
Oh yeah.
You're an elementary school student, you look up at the night sky, you're like, what are those weird lights up there? Where do they come from?
Hmm.
Why do they form weird shapes? Why are people pointing things at them?
Yep.
And I think space, in some ways, can be a grand unifier of science. And what I mean by that is a lot of people start with space, or they have some sort of interest in what's beyond,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that can naturally evolve into interest in the other sciences or even further interest in physics. And I'm not saying that everybody starts as like, oh, yes, I want to study astrophysics, but more like it helps create the mind that starts asking questions. And I felt like that's sort of how I began in astrophysics.
Mm.
Um, at first, there were these smaller questions that I had about like how did the universe work and that kind of stuff. And having space out there and all these really cool images of nebulae and galaxies continue to bring up more and more and more questions.
Mm.
And one thing that I've noticed, especially when talking with younger students, is that natural curiosity for space brings out those kinds of questions. Because when you're looking at the stars and being like, what is that? You are actually applying the scientific method. You are
Mm.
forming an hypothesis. You're thinking about a research question. You're thinking about methodologies, results, conclusions, all of that. And so that's sort of how I started out in physics. Um, Starting to ask those questions like many, many others and learning to apply the scientific methods from there.
Wow. It's a natural thing. I didn't even think about something like that. So you're thinking on so many different levels than I am with this stuff. It's absolutely
Oh,
fascinating
no,
with it.
no, not at all.
No, really. I mean, it the way you explained it is absolutely perfect. How it kind of is a natural, um, organically grown interest, and it feeds upon itself and creates a more and more want to learn more and ask more questions. And I could just hear it in you talking about it that's what happened to you. And
Yeah,
the
no, I mean exactly.
and
Yeah.
the curiosity and what to ask continues to grow. That is absolutely wonderful. That is really wonderful. And how did you decide to bring that over to VTubing?
Yeah, so that was actually kind of a spontaneous decision. So I guess I've sort of delved on this in my channel, but I guess I can go into a bit more detail now. So
Yeah.
I remember I was chatting with somebody and I had long been interested in VTubers. I was got into Hololive Myth when they first debuted. I was watching them throughout COVID, and during that time I never thought about starting my own channel.
Mm.
And then I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and I was talking about like, wow, like I've been hearing all these VTubers, and they were like, are there any like science VTubers out there?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I don't know any off the top of my head. I don't know, maybe this is something to look into. And so I then like opened a channel. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna see what this is like. Maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
And what I found immediately was that there are so many science VTubers out there.
There is. There is.
Yep.
It is.
There are so many.
Yeah. And every one of them, and I've talked to a few, and we'll talk about that in just a second too,
Hmm.
are very aren't just science VTubers, but also very, very um, hands-on, enthusiastically into it. That's
Yeah,
that.
no, they're passionate and knowledgeable and incredibly smart.
Yeah, and really want to not just have fun with it themselves, but share it with other people. That's a whole nother animal there. um, People could be interested in it for themselves, or they could be wanting to bring other people into it too. And
Yeah, exactly.
you're a part of a group now. I've interviewed a couple folks, Sideri, one of them, about and you're kind of a science group of VTubers. Explain that a little bit, please.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So I am in a group called V-Theorem. I
Mm-hmm.
am in Gen 1.5. I know the numbering is a little funky.
I just kind of expected out of you guys.
Yeah, no, the next one's gonna be
Generation
like,
Generation Pi.
yeah, we were actually talking about this, having the next generation be like 1.75. It's never going to hit 2. It's
That's
going to be
right.
like 1.1.85 and then 1.9, something like that.
1.83 repeating.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's this is wonderful because it's entertaining and it's informative, and you're obviously enjoying it. The folks who are watching are going to be enjoying it, and it continues to actually educate people a little bit, whether they want it or not, because they get interested
Hmm.
in this sort of thing, and it is a really brilliant way to use the medium. And I see, if you don't find something that interests you on the net with VTubing, you're no one to look for it because it's there. Yeah, this so when you got started with this and you got turned on the microphone, how long did it take for you to get comfortable with it?
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm laughing because I'm like thinking back to like my debut and
Yeah.
like the first videos I made. So I was making like smaller YouTube shorts explaining, I think my very first one was like explaining like U substitution in math.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay. My
and
my.
I was so nervous. I think it took me about a dozen takes to
Mm.
make this like 1 minute long video.
Oh my gosh. Uh, and are you a perfectionist with it? Oh, you have to be,
I
don't you?
think, yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I can imagine. No, not quite. Go start again.
No, exactly. That was literally me. I was stopping like 5 seconds in, being like, okay, I'm gonna cut here, and then I'm gonna stitch that with this. And it was so crazy. And I just remember sometimes I rewatch my debut just to because it's very different from what I sort of am now. I feel like I was so nervous and I could hear it in my voice. I was like very stiff, talking really fast. I went through this slideshow that I planned to be like an hour 30 in under an hour. Um,
Chun, 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 chun,
but
chun.
yeah, no, exactly. But as time has been going on, I think I've been sort of finding my comfort zone. I think it took the first couple of live streams, but I think honestly, I feel like I have actually just recently hit a comfort zone with streaming, and that is mainly because I've started to collab with other people.
Yeah, yeah. Once you kind of get that sense of you're not the only one out there doing this sort of thing, that there you have kind of a group that you can support with, and have them support you, and like, I am not alone out here. It does make a big difference, doesn't
I'm not alone in the void
it?
of
That's
space.
right. Not a beacon,
Yeah.
not a lonely beacon out there by itself. It does make a big difference when you know that there are other people who are passionate enough about what they do, that they want to also spread that to other people, and kind of at least plant the seed of interest in other folks as well. When you did find that out, what
Mhm.
how did that hit you when you realized that, yeah, there are other people who want to do this too?
Yeah, so when I first started my channel, I immediately bumped into several other edu VTubers, including Phaedra Sarah, who does medical biology content,
Hmm.
Code Life, who does coding content, and they were sort of my guides. I had so many questions about the process, how to work with OBS,
Mm.
what to talk about, all that stuff, and they had and have continued to give me a lot of feedback and suggestions, and that was sort of my first encounter. And of course, with V-Theorem, which is the group I'm in now,
Yeah.
they have been an incredible, incredible support. All of them, I guess for a bit of context, they're a group of science communication VTubers spanning across biology, botany, psychology, and, well, now with me, even physics.
Hmm.
And they are just an incredibly passionate group of science communicators. It's all thanks to the other people that I feel like I've started to get comfortable and realizing, yes, this is a real thing that I'm doing,
Yes.
and sort of a real goal with science communication that I'm trying to pursue.
Yeah. It's a wonderful aspect, and a great a great shining uh, part of what has become such a diverse uh, VTuber community, and a diverse medium, that we are able to enjoy what you all have to bring, and that enjoyment is going to lead to more people wanting to know more about it, and education is always a positive. I think, as far as that goes, creating an interest, or not creating, but cultivating interest. I think that's a better word to
Hmm.
use, and kind of, you know giving it that little extra boost, to maybe people can go and ask questions themselves. Um, because frankly, we don't know. We don't know those people's potential is, and so many people don't realize their potential. Um, the next great
Hmm.
astrophysicist could be the 3-year-old playing down the street, and that's, we may not know that unless that seed gets planted and nurtured, and they get the opportunities to go and study this sort of thing. Um, I'm I
Yeah,
am
exactly.
I'm greedy. I want everybody to reach their potential so I can take advantage of it. I want to know these things myself. Now, you've not only been using it for this, but you also had a really successful charity fundraiser here. Was that something when you started that you even thought about doing, was these types of fundraisers?
Oh no, that was, I mean, I had thought about it, but I was thinking about doing a fundraiser like that, maybe when my channel was more developed. But I
Mm,
guess for a bit of context, I started this charity fundraiser because it was for raising money for the LA wildfires. And the
Mm.
reason for that is because um, this past summer I had visited the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which is an incredible, incredible space where they are building state-of-the-art spacecraft
Mm.
and communicating with Mars rovers and building robots that are shaped like snakes and all these really cool things. And I was incredibly inspired. And unfortunately, some of my colleagues, some of my friends had lost their homes because of the LA wildfires.
Yeah.
And hearing about this after being there for quite some time was really challenging. And so I was thinking I could maybe host a charity fundraiser. And now, when I went into this, I didn't have any really set goal in mind. I thought, you know what, maybe as a smaller channel, I could at least raise awareness, spread some information about NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory and the cool work that they're doing there, and maybe get some other science VTubers involved. And I have to say, it was an incredible, incredible, incredible success.
Mm.
We actually ended up raising, I believe, around $2,500
Holy cow.
for LA wildfire relief towards direct relief.
Mm. That,
Yep, and we had dozens of, I think about a dozen streamers involved.
cool.
Yep, streaming video games, streaming science content, um, streaming the psychology of disaster relief, and so much more. And it was such an incredible feat. I could not have done it alone. It was definitely thanks to all of the streamers who helped out. But that was definitely one of the highlights of my VTubing career so far, was getting this huge group of incredibly passionate VTubers together and making a difference.
Oh, folks, if you didn't listen to that and have a smile on your face, I don't know where your heart is. Because you obviously this was something you really it welled up in you that you wanted to do, and you did it, and it was successful, and it's obvious that you're proud of it, and you should be. That's just a brilliant way to use these things to help people. And again, you just showed
Mhm.
that what a giving type of person you really are with this sort of thing. It's
Mhm.
it's a tremendous asset to have, and not a whole lot of people have it these days. So I mean, I'm smiling myself because of what you've been able to do, and I want to. I'm glad that you're hyped up to do more in the future, with your channel and more. Have you got any big plans as far as expanding, doing different things with your channel at the moment?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for the kind words. I mean, this wasn't possible without everybody else also involved, and for the very generous support. I think it also comes to show that no matter how small your channel may be, or so forth, there is such a powerful community of VTubers, and they have been really central
Mm. It
to
it it,
garnering support. Yeah.
it's that's true, and I will bow to your humble answer. However, you are the catalyst that started it off, so going to
Oh,
give you the credit. So just take the W.
I'll take the W. Thank you. Well, to answer your question, some exciting things I have next. So, I'm actually part of well, probably by the time this is released, it would probably may have already passed. I'm part of this science symposium of VTubers planning to do a lecture on the hunt for alien worlds on
Ooh,
exoplanets.
ooh, ooh, ooh,
Um,
yes.
a- yep. And a few days ago, I was actually invited to visit probably the largest museum near me
Mm,
um, for a tour. So I am planning to make a video on that. And of course, one of the milestones of the charity fundraiser was to work on a course on partial differential equations, which, keep in mind, was one of the hardest things that I learned
yeah, yeah.
in college. So we'll see where it takes us, but that is also one of the more highly anticipated videos that I will be rolling out soon.
Oh
So
my!
yeah,
You mentioned that, and my poor high school calculus brain started hurting.
I promise you, I'm trying to make it as little scary as possible
Yeah.
because it's scary. Physics can be hard. Physics is hard.
Yes,
So
but
I'm hoping to make it a little bit easier and accessible and open to questions for everybody.
yeah, it is hard. But I always found math, physics, that sort of thing hard. But I also enjoyed it because there were answers. Um,
Mm.
and sometimes there's more than one. Like, x could be 2 or -2. That sort of thing. But there were concrete answers for the most part that you could find. Things like English and literature and that sort of thing, that was interpretation in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. Now, I say this, but a lot of things that you deal with as in space and that sort of thing are based on theories. Whether it's been proven over and over again is one thing, but there's always one thing that could mess it up. So, have you found it more interesting, less interesting, tougher when you know that there is not a necessarily concrete answer to something, that it may be a theorem that has to be proven later?
I see. Well, I think a lot of the research I do IRL is objective. I don't do theoretical physics.
Hmm.
I think it's really exciting to think about theories.
Hmm.
I think in some cases it's really hard to prove the theories,
Oh yeah.
but at the end of the day, a lot of the facts that we know now originally came from theories.
Hmm.
One of the biggest questions that we have right now is what is dark matter? So
Hmm.
everything around us, everything we can see, touch, interact with, makes up only 5% of the universe's composition. The
Right.
rest of it, we have no idea.
Oh yeah.
And that's 95% of the universe we're talking about.
Oh yeah. There's all sorts of stuff. We haven't even barely scratched the surface yet. I mean, how long has physics been around as a science, and we still really haven't figured out how to quantitate, what and why gravity. I mean, it's here, but
Yeah, no, it's just the
in
nature of it is so elusive.
yeah, it's not magnetism. It's not purely based on you know you're hanging on as something is spinning. It's not purely based on that. But as soon as somebody figures that out, then we're really off. A lot of things. Make it a little easier to throw them rockets up in space. That sort of type of stuff. Do you follow
Hmm.
all of these launches, these private launches that have happened here recently, um, and people, and a lot of these rocket launches becoming privately taken care of?
Yeah, I mean, I really some of my content deals with aerospace.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we did watch a few launches live. We did watch a SpaceX launch live, the big chopstick catch,
Mm-hmm.
and the Europa Clipper spacecraft launch, which is on its way to Europa, which is one of Jupiter's moons.
Yeah, that's gonna be
Um,
fun. I can't wait to
yeah,
see what that's gonna bring back.
yeah, and I guess like outside of YouTubing, I also really enjoy like doing watch parties and watching these really cool launches. I think now is a really, really exciting time for the space industry, for space commercialization, for private space companies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like we're going through like a space age. It's definitely really, really exciting and just an incredible feat of a bunch of people putting their minds together to go into space.
Yeah, yeah. I can tell you because I'm a very old man that I was around when we were still landing on the moon. Um,
Mm.
and we thought back then that by now we would be pretty much based there, doing things on the moon. Now, obviously, we are where we are, and the thought of what would need to be done has changed, and probably is beyond. any cost we could probably imagine. Um, and we got a pretty effective space station, even though we can't get anybody down from there at the moment. Uh,
Oh no.
are we gonna get there in not mine because I'm an old man in your lifetime and stay there for a while?
I think yes. Yes. I guess I'm more of an optimist. I think that we could get to the moon, get to Mars.
Mm,
Um, I think though that it might be more so in the hands of private space companies than what we
right.
might expect. And the reason why I say that is because currently like SpaceX, Blue Origin, all these major space companies are really paving the way.
Mm,
They're not only, launching rockets into space, they're also garnering a lot of attention, a lot of excitement around space.
right. Right. And
I
it's
think another thing about these privatized space companies as well is the fact that, well, I guess SpaceX is huge, but what we're seeing nowadays is the rise of new space startups.
mm,
There are new startups dealing with making a new space station.
yeah.
There are startups dealing with deploying new types of rockets or reusable rockets,
Mm,
or even slingshotting rockets, or even slingshotting satellites, all of the above.
yeah.
Um, and I think the thing about these private space companies is that they have to think about cost. They have to think about money,
Right.
which means that they're working to build more efficient spacecraft. They are developing their ingredients in-house because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
But that also leads to more innovation.
Yeah. It does. And also, it also keeps. Um, I didn't even want to bring this word up, but also keeps the political out of it for the most part. Because you have a situation in many countries, not just the United States, but all over, where a government change could mean a project gets canceled for no apparent reason other than they don't like the project. So all of this work is suddenly stopped. Um,
Yep.
and I think it has a better chance to keep going if private individuals are behind it and have that curiosity going and aren't necessarily um, kowtowing to whatever political situation happens and get caught in other things. There's not as much. There is red tape, but not as much anyway, and it's not constantly piling on you. This, I think, we're going to be
Mhm.
seeing so many innovations, um, different ways to do things. We've seen not too far away in the past um, technology that's been used time and time and time again suddenly not be as good. And the technology didn't change, but now we've got better things to do with it. we we could do it better, and I think that's the only way we can do that now is with private citizen help. Um,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and so when you saw that chopsticks catch, what did that do for you?
Well, I had already been very much following up on all of this
Mm,
Starship, SpaceX stuff.
yeah,
Um, but when I saw it, I was like, holy smokes, we are in an era of space excitement right now. And I just remember seeing it for the first time and I was like, this can't be real. This literally cannot be real. Um, of course, like I had heard about like what they were planning to do and like that it was going to happen, but seeing it with my own eyes and
hmm
being like, they literally caught that rocket was
it
incredible.
really was. It really was. I just happened to look at the clock, and I've kept you longer than I said I was going to already. And I know you're busy. You got stuff going on. So please come back, because we got a lot more stuff to talk about. You're doing such great stuff, and I want to make sure that people support it and and tell you that go. We need more stuff from you, and please
Mhm.
keep smiling and enjoying what you're doing because this is uh, this is not only a great thing, but it's important. And you tapped into something that is going to be in the future, I think, very important for people to learn what's going on in in very important fields such as space and physics and that sort of thing. Z, I'm going to have all the links I can up on the description for people to come over and find out what you got going on. Thank you for everything you're doing. And thank
Yeah,
you.
no, thank you. And for you too. I mean, you're really bringing these VTuber voices out, and I'm so, so honored to be on your channel.
Well, I'm honored that you'd want to come on because it's believe me, when it all comes down, when somebody says, what importance did these people play? You're going to be way up there ahead of me, and I'm just as long as I can, keep showing people that that are folks are not only entertaining but interesting and educational out there. I'm going to keep doing it, and you're aces in my book. See.
Oh, well, I'll definitely want to run it back soon. Maybe a sequel in the near future.
Yep, yep. In the meantime, you keep shining, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Eric Loy Interviews. Join us again next time when we talk to another member of the always interesting VTuber community.